Simple, straightforward. It's a good box you can learn a lot from. It's my favorite one to recommend to beginners. So, without further ado, let's get into it. First things first, let's go ahead and find out who we are. Alright, here's the IP of our Kali Linux attack machine. And now we're going to go ahead and use nmap to find out the other machines on this network. We're going to find our target. And right now, keep in mind we are in the reconnaissance phase. We're gathering information on who we will be attacking. So what we're doing here is we're running a simple TCP SYN scan, that's what the -SS indicates, against our own machine to find all the computers on the /24 subnet. So we're going to see every other computer on this network, and anything else will be our target. This is a very basic scan. Nmap can get a lot more in depth, show you a lot more things, but for the purposes of a box this simple, we're going to keep it simple and not overcomplicate it. So, nmap scan report for 10.38.1.119, so that's our target. It has these two ports open, 22 for SSH and port 80, which is HTTP. So let's talk about what that tells us. So HTTP being open means that this is a web server, and port 22 for SSH being open means that more than likely we're going to gain access to this machine by finding valid credentials on that website and then using them to gain access through SSH. So let's go ahead and check this website out. We're going to do that in our browser. Alright, so we're having trouble finding that site, but if you look up here in the URL bar, you'll see that it does come up with something, deathnote.vuln/WordPress. And this is a pretty good giveaway that this is running a WordPress website. So before that, we want to be able to view this, so we're going to need to add this to our host directory. So Nano is a text editor. It's the easiest to use in my opinion, so I use that the most. Alright, so we're going to use this to kind of map that IP to this host name, and it'll make it viewable on our machine. This is usually done for kind of like local website maintenance, but for our purposes it's for hacking into it. And we're just going to use that deathnote.vuln part. Alright, Control O to save it, Control X to exit. Now let's go ahead and see if we can access it. And here we are. So this is a Death Note themed box. It's a great anime. I recommend anyone check it out. Alright, I am the god of the new world. I will eliminate UL. For anyone who's seen the show, you know what all that means, but it's not too important. Let's go ahead and start enumeration. So we can see that this is a WordPress website, and there's a great tool called WP Scan, which stands for WordPress Scan. So let's go ahead and try that out. This one can take a moment to run, but came up pretty quick. Perfect. Alright, let's see what we're working with. So there's not too much here, only this right here is actually a pretty big vulnerability, the fact that they left this viewable. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. This is the uploads section of a website. And in another video, I'll explain more about how websites actually work. But essentially, they're just a collection of directories on a computer that you can access, and I'll show you guys how to set all that up yourself in another video. Before we dig too deep into here, let's go ahead and run the tool GoBuster. So this website is made up of all these directories. GoBuster is a tool written in Go, and it's used for finding directories on a website. So it runs with word lists, and if there's things in that word list like WordPress or WP content, it'll show up in the scan. All right. So it looks like running it just against deathnote.vuln, we found the robots.txt file, and we're definitely going to want to look into that. Every website has a robots.txt file, at least I think everyone does. I've never seen one without it. It essentially shows like Google's web crawlers where not to look, so obviously we're going to go ahead and look in those. But let's go ahead and run this against /WordPress as well. All right, and we can see that there's an admin page. Go ahead and take a look at that. All right, so if we were to gain the credentials for this, we can get access to the website. And one thing you always want to check whenever you see a login page is default credentials. Will admin work? No. You always want to check these error messages too, because a lot of the time they give away information that they don't think you can use, but you can. The username admin is not registered on this site, so that means that both the username and the password are incorrect. Let's say we had the correct username, it would tell us that, and we would at least know that only the password was the issue. But we don't have the credentials yet, so let's keep looking around. Let's look back at our scan. Let's go ahead and check out this robots.txt file now. All right, looks like we found a clue. It says, fuck it, my dad added hints on /important.jpg, Ryuk, please delete it. So we want to find this important.jpg, and I think we can go ahead and guess that it's just kind of there. So before we continue, let's go ahead and go into, this is just how I like to organize things. We're going to make a directory for deathnote, and anything we find from this box that pertains to this is going to go in this directory. So let's see. Alright, so wget, for anyone who doesn't know, is just a simple tool for grabbing things from the internet. It's how you download things using the command line. It's not necessarily a hacking tool or anything malicious. I use it all the time whenever I'm like just downloading something on my Linux machine, and that's just the way to get it. So, alright, we went ahead and grabbed that. Alright, looks like it's a JPEG file, which as we know are pictures. So let's go ahead and open it up. Some files could not be opened. See the next logs for details. Okay, so it's having trouble opening it. So let's go ahead and use what's called the file command, and that'll give us more information about the file itself. And it looks like this is actually containing ASCII text, not an image. So people do that to kind of throw you off. These extensions tell your computer how to interpret it. So right now it's trying to interpret text as an image. So what we will do is we will rename this to interpret it as text, not JPEG. All right. I don't know if you guys can read that. It says, I am Suichiro Yagami, Light's father. I have a doubt if L is true about the assumption that Light is Kira. I can only help you by giving something important. Login username is in user.txt. I don't know the password. Find it by yourself, but I think it is in the hint section of the site. So we know that if we can find user.txt, the username will be in there. And generally when you have a username, you can use a tool to brute force the password. So that's what he means by find it by yourself. So let's go ahead and try and find user.txt, and we'll do that in here. And we can look around, you can see different parts of the website, like here's the images used in it, you know, Kira logo, blah, blah, blah. And there it is, notes.txt and user.txt. So we probably want those. So we're once again going to use wget to grab them. So let's get user first. So it looks like any of these can be the username. It's all characters from the show. We in our death note, yep. All right. Go ahead and just grab the URL. And we're going to do the same thing for notes.txt, which we can go ahead and assume are the passwords. Possible passwords. Alright, so we've got usernames, we've got passwords. What's next? We're going to brute force. And we're going to do that with a tool called Hydra. And I'll explain all this as soon as I type it out. Alright, so Hydra is a brute force tool for brute forcing websites. You can see right here we're using it with SSH because we know SSH is open, so we're looking for SSH credentials. So what's going to happen is this tool is going to test every word in this username field. L stands for login, I think, like login information, and P is for password. So these are the usernames, these are the passwords. It's going to test each one, each username with each password against this, you know, SSH on this machine, and whenever one logs in successfully, that's how we know that those are the valid credentials. So it should only take a moment. We can even see here a little bit about Hydra. Please do not use in military or secret service organizations or for illegal purposes. This is non-binding. These blanks ignore laws and ethics anyway. Which is true. Hopefully I learn how to speed through these parts of videos because I've never edited a video before. Alright, we have got some credentials. Host, that's our target. Login L, password, death for me. Alright, we can go ahead and stop that scan. I think that's good. So, we've got a login, we've got a password. Let's gain access. We're going to do that through SSH. And for anyone who doesn't know the syntax for SSH, it's SSH, the user at the machine, and then you'll put in the password after that. You'll get experience this in some of your classes, SSHing into the school's server to do some of your homework. Go ahead and say yes, the password, death for me. And we've gained access. Just like that, we're in. Alright, so this right here is called the user flag. All these, not all of them, most boxes that we're going to do have a user flag. And it basically says you gained access, you're at like the halfway point. So, looks like it's got an encoded message. Let's go ahead and figure out what this is. So we're going to go ahead and copy it. And because our machine is isolated from the internet, it's not on the internet, so we don't accidentally mess anything up. I'm just going to use my regular browser on my computer, and we're going to find a cipher identifier. I would get used to seeing this because I've used this in just about every CTF I've ever done when it comes to cryptography challenges. So we'll give it the cipher, let it analyze it, and it looks like it has detected the brainfuck cipher. So we'll click on that, and usually it gives you kind of like some random example. So go ahead and put ours in, execute, and it's decoded it. So let's go ahead and just grab that. I think you got the shell, but you won't be able to kill me, Kira. So let's continue from there. Let's clean off this screen. First step, whenever you gain access to a machine, our goal now is to elevate our privileges. The privilege escalation phase is basically going from a regular user to root, and once you've got root on the machine, it's yours. Mission's done. An actual attacker would begin what's called actions on objectives, which is either stealing data, destroying the website, destroying data, just wreaking havoc. So we're going to see where we are. We're just in the home L folder. Who am I? We're L, ID. So the ID command shows the groups and permissions of the current user. So L has 1000 for the group is 1000, and the groups that it belongs to is also 1000. 1000 means regular user, essentially, aka not root. We can use sudo-L, and this will show us what privileges the user has, or what root privileges the user has, because sometimes a regular user can be authorized to run certain commands as root, and that's generally a good place to figure out how you're going to gain root privileges on everything. So, sorry, user L may not run sudo on deathnote. That's fine. Let's go ahead and keep looking around. Let's try going into Kira. Let's check this out. Cat kira.txt. Permission denied. Alright, so we don't have the password for that. So let's go ahead and keep looking. We're going to use the ls-la command to view hidden files. So this is interesting. So obviously there's a .ssh file because we SSH'd into this machine. But let's look at the permissions on that. The user has read, write, and execute. Fair enough. But other users have read and execute, and groups have read and execute as well. So we can go ahead and go into that .ssh folder, and there's what we wanted, an authorized keys. Let's go ahead and look at the privileges on that as well, permissions. So Kira is able to read and write to it, and everyone else is at least able to read it, and that right there is a vulnerability. This key, this public key, should not be viewable by other people. Yeah, so this is what's used in passwordless authentication using SSH. I highly recommend checking out a video on how to do that. It's a little tedious to explain right now. But essentially, this key was used. This is a public key used in tandem with a private key that was generated to give a user access to a machine without having to enter a password. Basically, it's typically more secure because a password can't be compromised. And it's also more convenient for a certain user. They just have to have the private key and the corresponding public key. So what we're going to do is take this public key, go back into L, go into our .ssh folder, and we're going to use vi, which I'm assuming is on here, to create our own authorized keys. Oops. When you're in VI, it's a very old text editor. I think it's been around since like the 70s. You want to hit escape and then colon and then WQ, which stands for write and quit. So we now have that public key, and we're on the actual Death Note machine right now. So the private key is on there as well. So this is one way to move. It's called moving laterally through a system. You're moving from one user to the other. And that's generally what a hacker will do once they gain access to a machine. They want to move laterally, gather as much information as they can until they get root. So let's go ahead and try it. And just like that, we're Kira. We've moved laterally. All right, so now we're a different user on the same machine. Let's see, who am I? We're Kira. Present working directory, we're in Kira. Let's go ahead and read that Kira.txt. All right, so it looks like another cipher. I'm going to go ahead and assume this is base 64. If it's not, we'll just throw it in a cipher identifier and figure it out. So this is a very useful trick right here. You're going to use this in many CTFs and many vulnhub or hack the box boxes. But being able to decode and encode in base 64 on the fly, you'll be doing it a lot. So essentially, echo prints something to the screen, and we're going to echo this string of characters, but we're going to pipe it, which means send the output to base 64-D for decode. And we get a message, please protect one of the following, l/opt and misa/var. Okay, so /opt is a file in Linux. Let's go check it out. All right, there's L, which they said to protect. And we have a few different directories. Let's check out Kira case. The FBI agent died on December 27, 2006, 1 week after the investigation of the task force member/head, aka Soichiro Yagami's family. And according to Watari, he died as other died after Kira targeted them. And we also found something in Fig Notebook Rule folder. Okay, that was the other folder that was there. Let's go ahead and check that out. Okay, we're going to go ahead and look at that hint, because why not? Use CyberChef. Okay, for anyone who doesn't know, CyberChef is a cipher encryption, decryption tool. If you have a cipher or something encrypted, you can put it in there and it'll find it out for you. So, looking at this sequence, I can tell that this is hexadecimal. As you do these, you'll get used to picking that out. And we'll explain hexadecimal in greater detail in a different video. But we're going to do what they said. We're going to use CyberChef. All right. So this looks like base 64, and I can tell that because it ends in an equal sign. So all right, password, Kira is evil. And we also could have done the base 64-D on this as well. I'll actually show you how that works. Pipe it. All right. Once again, echo, print out to the screen this string of characters, send that output to the base 64 decoder, And once again, password, Kira is evil. So with that password, we might be able to get root. Let's go ahead and try that. So and it looks like that worked. We've successfully escalated our privileges to root. Who am I? Root. ID. See the 0? That means root. As you can see, it clearly says. And let's go ahead and finish this off. Let's go ahead and get to the root directory. And just like that, it's over. The box is ours. See if we can make this a little bigger. I don't know if you can read that, but it just says congrats. So that was the Death Note box, everyone. We went from boot to root. We started with reconnaissance. We went on to gain access, and then we elevated our privileges to root, and the machine is now ours. We'll keep these videos coming regularly. I hope you learned something, and feel free to message me, LilXUglyDude, on Discord if you need any help. Have a good one.